know it. Yes, I do. I watched it today. I actually like.
This is the book officially written by Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. It could be his head, it wasn't screwed on just right. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, the heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm, lighted windows below in their town. For he knew that every Who and Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. He growled at his Grinch fingers and nervously drumming. I must find some way to keep Christmas from coming. For tomorrow he knew all the Whovilles and boys would wake bright and early, they'd rush with their toys, and then, oh, the noise. The one thing he hated was all the noise. And then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast. They'd feast and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They'd feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beef. Oh, roast beef was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and those Who would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Where for 53 years I put up with it now, I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. He chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick, with this coat and this hat all look just like St. Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, and there were none to be found, did that stop the Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he took his dog Max, and he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. And the Grinch said, giddy up! And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay as snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square. This is step number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed as he climbed up the roof and in bags of his fist. He slid down the chimney, rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a minute or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. Stockings, he Grinched, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slept with a smile, most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present. Popcorn, bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. He stuffed them in bags, and then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed the bags one by one up the chimney. And then he slipped to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding, and he took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. And he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I shall stuff up the tree. And he grabbed the tree, and as he started to shove, he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who, who was no more than 2. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking your Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick that he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the big Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one shine. So I'm taking it home from my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. And he patted her head, got her drink and sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who was in bed with her cup, he crept to the chimney and stuck the tree out. And then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar, and the last thing he took was a log for their fire. On the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb. It was even too small for a mouse. And then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was quarter of dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still snooze, when he packed up their sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings and trappings, 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he was graciously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two, and the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's the noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. He paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, but it started to grow. But this sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry, but it couldn't be so, but it was merry. Very. He stared down at Whoville, the Grinch popped his eyes, and he shook as he saw with a shocking surprise that every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or another, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it show? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. But then the Grinch thought of something that he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute that his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. He brought back their toys and all the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch,